Chapter 2 of Pollyanna by Eleanor H. Porter. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 2, Old Tom and Nancy. In the little attic room, Nancy swept and scrubbed vigorously, paying particular attention to the corners. There were times, indeed, when the vigor she put into her work was more of a relief to her feelings than it was an order to efface dirt. Nancy, in spite of her frightened submission to her mistress, was no saint. "I just wish I could dig out the corners of her soul," she muttered jerkily, punctuating her words with murderous jabs of her pointed cleaning stick. "There's plenty of 'em needs cleaning out, all right, all right. The idea of sticking that blessed child way off up here in this hot little room, with no fire in the winter, too, and all this big house to pick from and choose from. Unnecessary children, indeed. Humph!" snapped Nancy, wringing her rag so hard her fingers ached from the strain. "I guess it ain't children what is most unnecessary just now, just now." For some time she worked in silence. Then, her task finished, she looked about the bare little room in plain disgust. "Well, it's done my part, anyhow," she sighed. "There ain't no dirt here, and there's mighty little else. Poor little soul. Purty place this is, to put a homesick, lonesome child into," she finished, going out and closing the door with a bang. "Oh!" she ejaculated, biting her lip. Then, doggedly, "Well, I don't care. I hope she did hear the bang. I do, I do." In the garden that afternoon Nancy found a few minutes in which to interview old Tom, who had pulled the weeds and shoveled the paths about the place for uncounted years. "Mr. Tom," began Nancy, throwing a quick glance over her shoulder to make sure she was unobserved, "did you know a little girl was comin' here to live with Miss Polly?" "A what?" demanded the old man, straightening his bent back with difficulty. "A little girl to live with Miss Polly." "Go on with your joking," scoffed unbelieving Tom. "Why don't you tell me the sun is a-going to set in the east tomorrow?" "But it's true. She told me so herself," maintained Nancy. "It's her niece, and she's 11 years old." The man's jaw fell. "Sho! I wonder now," he muttered. Then a tender light came into his faded eyes. "It ain't, but it must be, Miss Jenny's little gal. There wasn't none of the rest of 'em married. Why, Nancy, it must be Miss Jenny's little gal. Glory be to praise, to think of my old eyes a seeing this." "Who is Miss Jenny?" "She was an angel straight out of heaven," breathed the man fervently. "But the old master and missus knew her as their oldest daughter. She was 20 when she married and went away from here long years ago. Her babies all died, I hear, except the last one, and that must be the one what's a-comin'." "She's 11 years old." "Yes, she might be," nodded the old man. "And she's going to sleep in the attic. More shame to her," scolded Nancy, with another glance over her shoulder toward the house behind her. Old Tom frowned. The next moment a curious smile curved his lips. "I'm a-wondering what Miss Polly will do with the child in the house," he said. "Huh! Well, I'm a-wondering what a child will do with Miss Polly in the house," snapped Nancy. The old man laughed. "I'm afraid you ain't fond of Miss Polly," he grinned. "As if anybody could be fond of her," scorned Nancy. Old Tom smiled oddly. He stooped and began to work again. "I guess maybe you didn't know about Miss Polly's love affair," he said slowly. "Love affair? Her? No. And I guess nobody else didn't neither." "Oh, yes, they did," nodded the old man. "And the feller's living today, right in this town, too." "Who is he?" "I ain't a-tellin' that. It ain't fit that I should." The old man drew himself erect. In his dim blue eyes, as he faced the house, there was the loyal servant's honest pride in the family he had served and loved for long years. "But it don't seem possible. Her and a lover?" still maintained Nancy. Old Tom shook his head. "You didn't know Miss Polly as I did," he argued. She used to be real handsome, and she would be now if she'd let herself be. Handsome? Miss Polly? Yes, if she just let that tight hair of hern all loose and careless like, as it used to be, and wear the sort of bonnets with posies in 'em, and the kind of dresses all lace and white things, you'd see she'd be handsome. Miss Polly ain't old, Nancy." "Ain't she, though? Well, then, she's got an awful good imitation of it, she has," sniffed Nancy. "Yes, I know. It begun then, at the time of the trouble with her lover," nodded old Tom. "And it seems as if she's been feeding on wormwood and thistles ever since. She's that bitter and prickly to deal with." "I should say she was," declared Nancy indignantly. "There's no pleasing her nohow, no matter how you try. I wouldn't stay if 'twasn't for the wages and the folks at home what's needin' 'em. But some day I shall just bile over, and when I do, of course, it'll be good-bye Nancy for me, it will." Old Tom shook his head. "I know, I felt it. It's natural, but 'tain't best, child, 'tain't best. Take my word for it, 'tain't best." And again he bent his old head to the work before him. "Nancy!" called a sharp voice. "Yes, ma'am," stammered Nancy, and hurried toward the house. End of chapter 2.